I'm an old man of 72 who still pays bills with a pen and keeps spare cash tucked inside a cereal box just in case. My daughter Emily says it's cute. Her husband Travis calls it prehistoric. Between you and me, I'd rather be prehistoric than broke and loud like him. Emily used to call every Sunday, but after marrying Travis, the calls became busy, then forgot, then nothing at all. I didn't complain. I'd learned long ago that silence saves more dignity than begging. Still, when she called last week sweet as honey and twice as sticky, I knew something was off. Dad, she said, you're still using that old bank account, right? I'll help you modernize it. Just give me access. I'll set up the online stuff for you. I chuckled. Modernize, she said. That word is a cousin of goodbye when it comes from my daughter. But I played along, just to see where it'd go. The next morning, my phone pinged. Balance, $13.47. That's it. Gone. Every cent. An hour later, another ping-a-picture message. Emily and Travis, both grinning in sunglasses, with his mother Barbara, behind them holding a champagne flute. Off to Miami, family vacation time. I didn't boil with rage. I boiled water. For tea. Because anger burns fast, but patience brews slow. Then I opened my drawer, the one they didn't know about. Inside wasn't money, just a small notebook with a list I'd started a year ago. Not groceries, not birthdays, just 2 words at the top. Plan B. They thought they'd taken my last dime. They had no idea I'd been preparing for this day for months. And the funny part? The first move of Plan B would make them thank me, at least for a few minutes. You know, when your own daughter steals from you, it doesn't hit like a punch. It hits like forgetting your own birthday. Quiet, cold, silly almost. I sat at my kitchen table that night with my cat, Winston, who looked at me like, "You finally saw it, huh?" He's a wise cat, doesn't chase mice. Just watches them make bad decisions. I poured myself a cup of lukewarm tea and started laughing. Not the happy kind. The kind you do when life's so ridiculous you might as well be in a sitcom. I mean, imagine that your own flesh and blood draining your account to take a trip with her husband and his mother, a woman who once called me the discount version of a father-in-law. I'd always suspected Travis had his eye on my savings. The man can smell money the way Winston smells tuna. And Emily, she's got her mother's softness, but none of her sense. She believes every investment opportunity, Travis mentions, is a family project. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was. Entertained. Because I'd built that old man account for a reason, like a stage trap in a theater. They thought they'd emptied my pockets, but they'd only touched the decoy. My real savings, the one with 5 figures and a silent smile, sat in a different bank. The teller there still calls me Mr. Bennett and offers me peppermint candies. So, I decided to let the show play out. I'd give them their beach trip. Let them sip overpriced cocktails and post photos captioned, "Hard work pays off." Meanwhile, I'd start my quiet little comedy, a 3-act play called Guess Who Owns the House You're Standing In. And Act 1? Oh, it would begin before they even unpacked their suitcases. The morning after they flew to Miami, the house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator sigh. I made breakfast for 2 eggs, slightly overcooked, because apparently I can't even fry without an audience. Winston jumped on the chair across from me, looking offended that I hadn't set him a plate. "Don't worry," I told him. "They left us enough drama to feed on for a year." While eating, I opened my old wooden box, my treasure chest, as Emily used to call it when she was little. Inside were documents, house deed, insurance papers, a few bonds, and something I hadn't touched in 10 years, my authorization folder. That's where I kept copies of every form, every password, every little trap disguised as Dad's confusion. You see, when Emily and Travis convinced me to put the house in joint ownership for safety, I played the fool. I nodded, squinted at the papers, and said, "Sure, if it helps you sleep." What they didn't know was that I'd already reversed the deal months later with the help of my lawyer and poker buddy, Marty. The house was back in my sole name. Marty had laughed that day. "You're 2 steps ahead, old man." I'd said, "No, Marty, I'm just 2 betrayals experienced." So that morning, I called Marty again. Remember that contingency clause we drafted for Emily? I asked. He groaned. The one where you technically become her landlord if she moves out? The very same, I said, sipping my lukewarm tea. He chuckled. You're actually going through with it?
Oh, Marty,
I sighed.
I'm not even warming up yet.
After the call, I sat back and looked around my quiet house. I imagined their faces tanning in Miami, laughing about the silly old man who never checks his balance. Let them laugh! Because when they got back, they'd find out the house they thought was theirs now had a new tenant policy, and the rent was due in 48 hours. 2 days passed. I watched their vacation unfold on Facebook, like a cheap soap opera with bad lighting. Emily posted photos of cocktails taller than her arm. Travis posed shirtless like he'd invented the ocean. And Barbara? Oh, Barbara had a new hat in every picture. Wide-brimmed, feathered, sparkly. She looked like a walking piñata. The comments were the best part. So happy for you, sweetie, one wrote. You deserve this break, another said. Break from what? Stealing from your old man? I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my tea. That's when the doorbell rang. It was my neighbor, Hank, retired mailman, conspiracy theorist, and proud owner of 3 identical Hawaiian shirts. Saw the photos, he said. Your girl's living it up, huh? Yeah, I muttered. On my dime. Literally. He whistled. You gonna call the cops? I shook my head. No, Hank. I'm gonna call the gardener. The gardener? He blinked. Yep, time to dig up the roses. Hank thought I'd lost it. But here's the thing. Under those roses lay a small, waterproof safe. Inside it, my original house documents. The ones Emily and Travis thought were updated years ago. When they moved in, I told them I'd thrown the old papers away. But old men don't throw things away. We archive revenge. So, with dirt under my nails and Hank still shaking his head, I pulled the safe out, wiped it clean, and smiled. Phase 2, I whispered. Winston meowed approvingly. And that evening, while they were probably arguing over which beach selfie looked more natural, I mailed a notice to their address, my own house. A formal, polite letter signed by my lawyer. Dear tenants, it began. Rent payment reminder, due in 48 hours. Oh, I couldn't wait for that first phone call, because sometimes the best sound in the world is silence right before panic. On the 3rd day of their trip, I was having breakfast, oatmeal, raisins, and the sweet taste of justice when my phone rang. The caller ID said, Emily. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. Dad, she shouted before I could say hello. What is this letter from a lawyer? It says we have to pay rent? Is this some kind of joke? I took a slow sip of coffee. Good morning to you too, sunshine. How's the beach? Dad, I'm serious, she snapped. I could hear waves, seagulls, and the sound of Travis mumbling something about lawyers can't do that. Oh, they can, I said cheerfully, especially when the property owner requests it. She went silent. You mean you? Last time I checked, the name on the deed was still mine. You and Travis just live there, rent-free, mind you. Well, I chuckled. Not anymore. There was a long pause, then she whispered, I can't believe you do this to your own daughter. Sweetheart, I said gently, I can't believe my own daughter would fund her vacation with her father's pension. So here we are, both surprised. I hung up before she could reply. Winston, sitting on the counter, gave me a look of approval. Or maybe he just wanted my toast. Either way, I felt like I'd just delivered a punchline 20 years in the making. That afternoon, Hank stopped by again, holding a can of lemonade. So, did they call? I grinned. Oh, Hank. They called, they cried, and they discovered that karma works business hours. He laughed so hard he nearly dropped his drink. What's next, old man? I smiled. Next? We let them stew. Like chili, the longer it simmers, the better the flavor. And somewhere between the sound of Hank's laughter and Winston's tail flicking, I realized something beautiful revenge. Done right. Doesn't need shouting. It just needs patience and paperwork. By the 4th day, I'd settled into a delightful routine. Tea at 7, smug satisfaction at 8, and a nap by 9. My phone stayed oddly quiet, which meant Emily was probably still in the denial and bargaining stage of financial grief. I imagined her pacing the hotel balcony, waving that lawyer's letter like a flag of surrender while Travis tried to Google, "Can your dad evict you?" Around noon, there was a knock at my door. It was the mailman, new kid, maybe 22, looked allergic to paper. "Morning, Mr. Bennett," he said. "You've got some official mail from Florida." Ah, I smiled. My tropical drama delivered express. Inside the envelope was a note scribbled by Emily in pink ink. "Dad, please. Travis says this is illegal. Barbara says you've lost your mind. We'll fix this when we're back. Love, Emily." I couldn't help laughing. Travis calling me illegal? The same man who once tried to claim a jet ski as a business expense. And Barbara thinking I'd lost my mind, she's the woman who keeps her Pomeranian's teeth in a glass jar. For memories. Still, beneath my laughter, there was a pinch in my chest. Emily's handwriting those round letters, the tiny heart above every I. It took me back to when she was 10, leaving little notes in my lunchbox. "Good luck at work, Daddy." For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. Then I noticed the date on her message. 2 days ago, meaning she hadn't even bothered to call again. I folded the letter carefully, slipped it into Winston's empty treat jar, and said, "Let's keep this one as a souvenir, eh, buddy?" He meowed like he agreed. But inside, I made a quiet promise. They'd come home soon enough, and when they did, I wouldn't raise my voice. I'd raise the rent. The day they finally came back was one for the books. I was trimming my front hedge when their SUV pulled up loud music, louder luggage, and even louder tension. Travis jumped out first, wearing sunglasses so big he looked like a nervous dragonfly. Emily followed, clearly sunburned and furious, while Barbara stood behind them in a floral kimono, holding a coconut like it was evidence. "Dad!" Emily shouted before even saying hello. "We need to talk!" I leaned on my hedge trimmer. "Of course, sweetheart. Should I brew tea, or will shouting do?" Travis stomped closer. "This whole landlord stunt, you can't be serious!" "Oh, I'm dead serious," I said. "Though if I die, rent still applies." Barbara rolled her eyes. "This is cruel, Harold. We're family." I smiled. "Exactly why I'm charging the family rate 30% discount and one emotional scar free of charge." Emily's face turned redder than her sunburn. "Dad, you've changed." I chuckled. "No, darling, you have. You changed my passwords, my balance, and my trust in that order." They stormed inside, slamming the door so hard Winston dove under the couch. I followed slowly, savoring the drama like fine wine. Travis was pacing in the living room, waving the notice from my lawyer. "You think you can just turn our home into a rental?" "Correction," I said. "My home. You two simply added wear and tear." Then I opened the drawer near the sofa, the one they thought I never used, and pulled out a fresh stack of documents. "Here," I said calmly, sliding them across the table. "The lease agreement. Due dates on the front. Late fees on the back. Welcome to adulthood." For a moment, no one spoke. Even Barbara's dog stopped yapping. Emily's lip trembled. Travis looked like a man watching his Wi-Fi go out mid-game. I turned toward the kitchen and added, "I made cookies, by the way. Oatmeal. Figured you'd need something sweet to swallow all that pride. Because sometimes, revenge tastes best when served with homemade dessert." The next morning, I woke up to the smell of chaos. Not bacon chaos. Travis was pacing the kitchen in his bathrobe, phone glued to his ear, whispering words like legal loophole and financial abuse, as if the coffee machine were recording him. Emily sat at the table, mascara smudged, scrolling through her phone, probably Googling how to emotionally manipulate your father politely. I made my tea, quietly. When you live long enough, you learn silence can sound scarier than thunder. "Dad," Emily finally said, in that trembling voice adult children use when they suddenly remember their parents have brains. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We just thought you wouldn't notice." "Oh, I noticed," I interrupted, stirring my tea. "I notice when the cat ignores me. I notice when the neighbor's trash can tips over. And I sure notice when $14,000 grows wings." Travis slammed his phone down. "We can't pay rent, Harold. We just spent everything on that trip. I raised an eyebrow. Ah, yes. The family investment in sunburns and pina coladas. He groaned. You're impossible. Not impossible, I said. Just retired and finally free of guilt. Barbara appeared then, wearing another one of her circus hats and holding her Pomeranian like it was a weapon. You can't kick your own daughter out. What will people say? I smiled. They'll say, finally, Harold grew a spine. Then I pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. Inside was a printed screenshot of their bank transfers. Emily stared at it like it was a ghost. I didn't go through your phone, sweetheart, I said softly. You linked my email to your account when you set it up. Every transaction, Miami flights, hotel, dinners, all came to me. Emily covered her face. Travis muttered something about privacy. I just took another sip of tea. You see, I said gently, you modernized me. Remember? You made me digital. Winston jumped onto the counter right then, knocking over Travis's empty mug. Hot water splashed everywhere. Looks like the cat agrees, I said with a smile. And for the first time that morning, even I couldn't help laughing because justice, it turns out, purrs when it's satisfied. By the end of the week, the house felt like a reality show with no audience but me and Winston. Emily and Travis had gone from arguing to whispering to avoiding eye contact altogether. You could practically smell regret in the air. It mixed nicely with Barbara's new tropical mango perfume, which could stun a horse. I kept things civil. Every morning I'd greet them cheerfully like hotel staff. Good morning. Breakfast is self-service. Checkouts at noon next Friday. Travis grunted. Emily rolled her eyes, and Barbara muttered, Cruel man, under her breath. I just smiled, because nothing is crueler than politeness when they expect you to explode. Around lunchtime, Emily finally cracked. She came into the living room, sat across from me, and said quietly, Dad, do you hate me now? Her voice hit me like an echo from the past, the same tone she used when she was 5 and accidentally broke my wristwatch. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say it wasn't hate. Just heartbreak wearing a new coat. But instead, I said, Emily, I could never hate you. You're my daughter. I just needed you to see what happens when you treat trust like a wallet. She nodded slowly. We were stupid. I shrugged. Stupid I can forgive. Sneaky takes longer. Then Barbara chimed in from the hallway. Can we at least get a rent discount for emotional distress? I grinned. Sure. 10% off if you mow the lawn, and 50 if Travis apologizes to Winston for calling him a useless furball. Travis groaned, but the look on Emily's face changed less guilt, more understanding. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the message. As she left the room, she turned and said softly, Dad, thank you for not yelling. I smiled into my teacup. Oh, sweetheart, I only yell when the kettle boils. And that day, for the first time in a long while, the house didn't feel like a battlefield, just a stage where lessons were finally landing. The next morning started like a comedy sketch, written by fate itself. I came downstairs to find Travis in my bathrobe, my robe flipping pancakes with a look of deep concentration, as if he were performing heart surgery. Barbara sat at the table, dramatically fanning herself with a magazine, and Emily was humming nervously while setting out plates. Morning, chef, I said, leaning against the doorframe. Didn't know rent came with breakfast service. Travis forced a smile. Just trying to make peace, Harold. You like your pancakes fluffy or flat? Just like my life, I said. Fluffy when I'm alone, flat when I'm surrounded. Barbara huffed. He's mocking you, Travis. Relax, I said. Mockery is free, the rent's not. Then Emily put a hand on my shoulder. Dad, can we start over? Maybe talk about how to fix this? Her eyes were soft, honest. Not the social media sparkle kind real. The kind that says, I finally understand. I sat down. Travis slid a pancake onto my plate. It looked like it had been in a minor car accident, but it smelled decent. You know, I said slowly, I used to dream of family breakfasts like this. Never thought it'd happen because of a financial hostage situation. Emily laughed, then started crying right in the middle of her laugh. I reached out and patted her hand. Hey now, don't cry into the syrup. It's expensive. She shook her head. Dad, I was stupid. I thought you'd never need the money. I thought it wouldn't matter. I nodded. You're right about one thing, I don't need the money. But I do need respect. You can live without cash. You can't live without dignity. Even Barbara went quiet at that. Travis cleared his throat and said, So, about the rent. I grinned. We'll discuss that after dishes. Respect first, bills later. And as we ate those lopsided pancakes together, something shifted, not forgiveness, not yet, but a start. A messy, syrup-sticky start. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better one. That evening, the house was calm for the first time in months. No slammed doors, no passive-aggressive sighs, no Barbara lecturing Winston about respecting furniture. Just peace, the kind that hums softly like an old record player. Emily sat beside me on the porch swing, wrapped in a blanket. The air smelled like rain and overcooked pancakes. She looked down at her hands and said quietly, You know, when Mom passed, I felt like I had to fill the space she left, be in charge, handle things. But instead, I just made a mess. I turned my head. You didn't fill her space, sweetheart. You just tried to skip the lesson she already learned. Pride's a bad landlord. She laughed through her tears. I guess that makes me an evicted tenant, huh? Temporarily, I said. Lease renewal, pending good behavior. We sat in silence for a while, watching the streetlights flicker on. I remembered when she was 10, sitting beside me like this, telling me about her business plan, selling lemonade and using my sugar, my cups, and my water. She's always been ambitious, just forgot that character's worth more than profit margins. Then the screen door creaked open. Travis stepped out, holding 2 mugs of cocoa. Truce? He asked. I squinted. Depends. You make this with water or milk? He grinned. Milk? I'm not a monster. Well then, I said, taking a sip. Terms accepted. Even Barbara peeked out from the doorway, arms crossed but smiling. You're all soft now, she muttered. Barbara, I said, you've seen my pension plan's softness isn't in my budget. She actually laughed a miracle loud enough to scare Winston off the railing. And as the 3 of them sat there, sipping cocoa under that creaky porch light, I thought, maybe revenge had done its job. Not to hurt, but to teach. To reset the balance. To remind them that money can be replaced, but respect must be earned. One humble sip at a time. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, partly because Winston decided my face was a trampoline, partly because I'd slept with something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I made breakfast again this time, for everyone. 4 plates, real butter, and my best attempt at scrambled eggs that didn't resemble abstract art. The smell must have worked, because soon Emily came down, hair messy, eyes puffy, but smiling like a kid again. You cooked, she said softly. Don't sound so shocked, I replied. Your old man can still handle a frying pan. Barely. Then came Travis, cautiously peeking into the kitchen like a raccoon testing a trap. Morning, Harold. I grinned. Morning, tenant. He sighed. Okay, I deserve that. Barbara joined last, wearing slippers shaped like flamingos and holding her Pomeranian like royalty. If breakfast is part of the rent, I might stay forever, she announced. I smirked. Only if you agree to clean the gutters. Then I'll be moving out, she said instantly, sipping her orange juice like a diva. We actually laughed together, all of us. The kind of laugh that scrapes off the leftover bitterness and leaves room for air. After breakfast, Emily helped with dishes. Dad, she said quietly, Travis and I talked. We're going to pay you back all of it, even if it takes months. I looked at her, saw the determination, and felt something warm twist in my chest. Don't rush it, I said. The lesson's worth more than the dollars. She nodded. We learned. I smiled. Good. Now go learn how to make proper pancakes before your husband ruins another batch. She giggled. Travis groaned. And just like that, the heaviness that once filled the house lifted, replaced by something lighter. Almost funny. Like the world had forgiven us all for being human. Winston jumped onto the table, stealing a piece of toast right off my plate. See? I said. Even the cat's taking his share. Looks like everyone's square now. A week later, the house didn't just sound different, it felt different. No more tension hiding in corners, no tiptoeing around feelings. Emily had started bringing home groceries, real ones, not the frozen microwave love meals they used to live on. Travis fixed the squeaky door in the hallway, though it now made a new sound that I can only describe as a goose sneezing. Still, progress. One evening, while Barbara was watching her soap operas, Men of Malibu, or as I call it, Travis with abs, Emily joined me in the backyard. The roses were blooming again where I'd once buried that little safe. The irony wasn't lost on me. She looked at the flowers and said, "You really had a plan for everything, didn't you?" I chuckled. "No, sweetheart. I just had time and experience. The two things your generation keeps trying to skip." She smiled sadly. "I thought money would make us feel safer, happier." "Money's like sunscreen," I said. "You need some, but too much makes you slippery." She laughed through her tears again, her new habit lately. "I guess we learned that the hard way." "Well," I said, "some lessons need sunburns." Then, out of nowhere, Travis appeared holding a small brown envelope. "Mr. Bennett," he said awkwardly, "this is the first payment." He handed it over like it was radioactive. Inside were 50 crumpled dollars and a handwritten note. "Rent for our pride overdue, but sincere." I looked at him for a long moment, then handed the money back. "Keep it," I said. "Buy Emily some sunscreen. You'll need it for the next trip." He blinked. "You're letting us go?" "Not letting," I said, smiling. "Just trusting. But next time, you fund your own piña coladas." Emily threw her arms around me, crying again, while Barbara shouted from inside, "If we're hugging, someone better pour me wine." And for once, I didn't mind her voice echoing through my house, because this time it actually sounded like family. A few evenings later, I found myself sitting alone on the porch, the same spot where it had all started, tea in hand, Winston asleep at my feet like a furry foot warmer. The sunset was painting the sky in shades of orange and apology. From inside the house came laughter, not the fake kind that covers tension, the real one, loose and unplanned. Emily was teasing Travis about his pancake PTSD, and Barbara was offering Winston career advice. "You'd make a wonderful therapy cat, darling." I couldn't help but smile. For months, that house had echoed with disappointment. Now, it was noisy again, but in the right way. Life had returned, not polished or perfect, just alive. I thought about how close I'd come to cutting Emily off completely, about how easy it would have been to let pride win. But pride's a tricky thing. It makes you feel tall while quietly digging your own hole. The screen door creaked open, and Emily stepped out holding a cup of tea. "Thought you might need a refill," she said, sitting beside me. "Ah, my favorite waitress," I said. "Do I tip you or forgive you?" She laughed. "Both, maybe." We sat there, quiet, watching the last light fade. "Dad," she said after a while, "if you could go back, would you still do it? The rent, the lawyer letters, all that?" I looked at her and smiled. "Every word, every envelope. Because it wasn't revenge, sweetheart. It was a lesson dressed as a prank." She nodded, eyes glistening. "You're a good man, Dad." I sipped my tea and said, "Don't ruin my reputation, kid." Then Travis leaned out the window and shouted, "Barbara says dinner's ready and she's threatening to sing Grace again if we're late." Emily groaned. I laughed. Winston stretched. And as I stood up, I thought, maybe some stories don't need a happy ending. Maybe they just need peace and a punchline. Because the truth is, forgiveness tastes better than revenge, but revenge makes the tea just a little sweeter. A month later, the house was quiet again, not lonely, just resting. Emily and Travis had finally moved out, this time on their own dime. They left the place cleaner than I'd ever seen it. Even Barbara vacuumed, though she complained the entire time. On the kitchen table, they'd left a small wooden box tied with a ribbon. Inside was a note, and something that made my throat tighten. "Dad, we sold the jet skis." Here's what's left, $4,000. But the money isn't the gift. The lesson is, thank you for teaching us the value of trust. Love, Emily. Underneath the note lay my old wristwatch, the one she'd broken when she was 10 and swore she'd fix someday. It ticked perfectly now. New glass, fresh strap, still the same time inside. I sat there for a while, staring at that watch, listening to it beat like forgiveness in seconds. Then I realized something. It wasn't about the money. It was about time, the one thing we all think we own until it runs out. That evening, I walked to the garden. The roses I'd dug up for my revenge were blooming brighter than ever. Winston followed, tail up like he was proud of our little operation. I buried the wooden box under those roses, a goodbye to the bitterness, and maybe to the man who once planned Phase 2. Then I looked at the sunset and whispered, "All right, old fool, you won this one. But next time, try kindness first," Winston meowed. Maybe he disagreed. I laughed, turned back toward the house, and locked the door behind me, not out of anger, but peace. Because the greatest revenge, I finally learned, isn't taking back what was stolen. It's watching those who hurt you grow into the people you always hoped they'd be. Before you go, I'd love to know something. How old are you, and where in the world are you watching from? It always warms my heart to see the places these stories travel to. From small towns to big cities, from quiet porches to cozy living rooms. Every comment you leave reminds me that behind every screen, there's someone who's lived, loved, and learned just like me. So don't be shy, tell me your age, your city, maybe even your favorite drink while you listen. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a family of stories that connect us across time.